Wednesday, it's 12:30, and here I am for the Making Sales Easy Facebook Live. And what am I going to talk about today? Well, if you've got some habits that get in the way of your sales success, then you're not alone. Isn't it so easy to keep doing things over and over again, even though you know they're not really helping you? It's so easy. It's called being a human being. Well, today I am going to talk about how to create habits and make them stick. How do you create a habit that you know is going to support you in your, not only your sales success, but in any area of your life? How do you do that and then keep on track with it? Now, one of the things that I really want to make sure that you get by the end of the 10 minutes is that you are able to identify those habits. You go, oh yes, I know I should do X, or I wish I would do more of Y. Whatever those things are, that you have an awareness of them, and then that you have an understanding of how the mind works, so that it has less control over what you do, so that you have more control over it when it comes to habits. And so that's what I want by the end of our 10 minutes together. So let me just share how the mind works when it comes to habits, so that you have an understanding of why you keep doing the same things over and over again, even when you know that they're not helping you. So in your mind, you have a path of least resistance that gets you from point A to point B. So if you have a habit that is, you know that you need to follow up on a proposal, for example, and it's like, I haven't done the call, and then the call is completed. So that's a path that you take. Now, if you embrace making those calls, then you'll just pick up the phone here, make the call, and then put the phone down at the end of that period. But say you hate picking up the phone, say you get really anxious, supposing they ask me something I don't know how to answer, supposing they say no, there's all these things going on. So what you'll do, instead of picking up the phone, is, I think I need to reorganise my desk. I think I need to have a cup of tea. You know, I think I need to make sure I've deleted all the files out of my Google Drive that I don't use anymore. You'll find everything and anything. So if you've got habits that are like an avoidance strategy of things that you really would find enhance your business, grow your sales, make you feel more confident, if you've got those habits, first of all, it's like, okay, that's what's happening. Now that's because in your mind there is this path of least resistance. You know how to do this not very helpful behavior. It's a habit for you. You can do it with your eyes closed. And when you have these neural pathways that are already entrenched, you can keep doing those things over and over again. But when you've identified that, wouldn't it be good for me to just pick up the phone and follow up on this proposal, you know that there is no path of least resistance. In fact, there's not even a path. There's not even any stepping stones that you can just tiptoe across from point A to point B, because that's not how it works. You have to carve that path with your metaphorical machete. And it's like, if you imagine this is A to B, your path of least resistance, well, say your new path that you haven't created yet, A is still here, but B is up here. So there's no path there. And you've got this other path down here that's really well trodden, really well worn, really ingrained, but this one there's no path. But you know that this habit, this behavior would really help you to get more sales, would really help you create more success in whatever area you're thinking about right now. So you get your virtual machete out and you're aiming for your new destination, your new B, if you like. And there you are, carving the path, because you're all enthusiastic. Yeah, I've picked up the phone and I've dialed the number. Oh, hi, this is Lee Ashton here of Sasudi. You know, am I speaking with... Yeah, everything's going great. And then they say, well, you know, I haven't got much time right now. Like, can I call you back? What do you do? Oh, yeah, that's absolutely fine. So you're carving your path and everything's going great, and then something happens and you're not quite sure how to deal with it. And what do you think happens? You drop down to your path of least resistance because you know how to do that. And you know, you might then beat yourself up, give yourself a really hard time, but you know what? This is how new habits are created. In fact, this is exactly what happens. So you're back on your old path of least resistance, but you go back to the point where that little thing happened that you didn't quite handle exactly as you'd like to, not in your total magnificence. And then you ask yourself, okay, what would I do differently next time that happens? What would I say instead? And then you learn from that, because it's not about, you can't just have a habit and then it becomes a path of least resistance on its own. It's like anything, you have to keep practicing. So, okay, this is what I'd say next time. I'd say, yeah, sure. What is it that, you know, but before you go, tell me what questions you might have that I can just be thinking about, and then we can talk. What time would be great for you? And I'll call you. So you come up with these options, a few different options, and then you're back on your path, carving with your machete, and you call the next person. They say, oh, I haven't got time to call you right now. Oh, well, that's absolutely fine, because you've thought about it, right? That's absolutely fine. Tell me when would be good for you, and I'll put it in my diary and I'll call you at that time. Brilliant. Okay, I'll call you on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. You put the phone down, you've got your next action. Okay, so here you go, you're on that path and you overcame that challenge. So you're still carving, and then they ask you something and you're not quite sure how to answer it, and you put the phone down and you feel all deflated because you're back on your path of least resistance. That's okay, because you go back to that point and go, what would I say instead? What would I do instead? And that is exactly how you create that pathway, because you keep going back to the points where you stumble. You go back to the point where you're being human and you weren't actually thinking on your feet, because this is a new habit for you. And you keep asking yourself, what would I do differently next time that happens, so that when it happens again, you are prepared. And from that point A to point B, this new path, you may drop down to your path of least resistance several times, in fact, lots of times, depending on how long that journey is. And it's okay, because that's called learning. That's called being in the learning zone. That's called creating new behaviours. It's called testing, tweaking, whatever you want to call it. You label it whatever you want. But what I can tell you is this: every time you get a bit further, the start of this path of least resistance is becoming overgrown because you're not using it. And as you go further along and you overcome more of the things that trip you up, this path of least resistance is getting more and more overgrown until this becomes your path of least resistance. This is overgrown. This is your neural pathway from getting from point A to point B. And what's great about that is, if you ask yourself each and every day, how can I be a better version of myself tomorrow than I was today? What would I do differently tomorrow to make me an even better version of me? Then that means you're always looking for the next better destination. So be kind to yourself, go back and learn at those stumbling points, and then create a super strong path of least resistance that actually delivers exactly what you want. Now remember, if you've got any questions at all, drop them in the comments below and I'll respond to them. And remember to keep learning, keep tweaking, keep practicing until you get exactly what you want, and then you'll go on to the other neural pathway that you need to change, your next path of least resistance. Now, I will not be doing Facebook Live next week because I'm going to be at Glastonbury. I'm so excited. So I'm sadly not going to see you next week because I'll be probably pitching my tent somewhere in a field, and I'll be really excited because I just love being there. So anyway, have a great rest of today, a great rest of this week, and a great next week, and I will see you when I get back from Glastonbury, all super excited. I don't know how I'm going to concentrate on anything between now and then, and probably a little bit when I get back. But anyway, have a great week. Lots of love to you all. See you soon. Bye.